My name is Kimberly Weitzman. I'm the QA and training team lead at ViaQuest Psychiatric and Behavioral Solutions. The purpose for this training is to review a handout titled Documentation Reminders and Job-Related Reminders for IDD team leads. This is quite a lengthy document. I'd recommend that you either have it printed out to take notes on or have a paper and pen to take notes on. I will review every item in this handout, as well as demonstrate some of the tasks that we cover, and it may also mention some things that are not on this handout. So please pause the video if you need to go grab the items that you need to be successful in this training. Otherwise, if you are ready, let's go ahead and get started. So we begin with a reminder that there is another training and another handout titled Documentation and Job-Related Reminders that are to be used for yourself as well as for those that you supervise. So you are responsible for meeting that compliance as well as ensuring that those you supervise meet those compliance requirements as well. So please be sure to watch that training and to review that handout in addition to this training and this handout. Let's start with weekly payroll, productivity checks, and progress note checks. Every Monday, you will review payroll and productivity for each staff. You'll run the services report for each staff, looking for errors and warnings on progress notes. Work with staff to complete any that are in an error status by no later than 2 p.m. on Mondays. And notify your supervisor of barriers and plans. And I will go ahead and demonstrate how to run that report. Okay, so once you have logged into SmartCare, you will come to your search function or that magnifying glass. If you just start typing in payroll, the report that you want is the one titled Payroll Services Summary with Productivity My Office. You will enter your start date and the end date that you want to look on, remembering that our payroll weeks go Sunday through Saturday, and then you will choose the staff or numerous staff that you would like to run this report on, and then click View Report. What will come up is a report showing you the client names all the way on the left, the date that they were met with, the program that the client is assigned to, or if this is a payroll entry, which region payroll that staff is assigned to. Were those notes signed according to policy, yes or no, with a percentage at the top? The service provided, or if it was a payroll entry, what type of payroll entry was it? PTO, a holiday entry. If it was an hourly employee, how long did they work? What status is that item in? Has it been completed? If it was done today, is it in the signed status? If the note was not done, is it still in show? Or is it in error? You will find that out here. How long did the service last? Or if this is a payroll entry, how much PTO is that person taking, for example? And then how does that correspond to payroll time and productivity time? So please be sure that you know how to read and how to run this report, as well as those that you supervise. Okay, so moving on, check staff calendars in SmartCare for accuracy of the previous week calendar and that the current week is completed. All overtime must be approved by a supervisor. Check that paid time off is logged both in SmartCare and in Paycor. Review 5 notes per staff for medical necessity, in addition to any services that are over 6 units. Check that all services over 6 units or 91 minutes are justified and meet medical necessity. Make sure all entries are complete on the billing tracker by 12 p.m. and let the direct supervisor know when billing is completed. Moving on to supervision. Supervision should be completed a minimum of 2 times a month per supervisee, one of which should be completed in that supervisee's main location of work. Within 30 days of employment, a supervision agreement, form VPBS 12.19C, and an individualized development plan, IDP form VPBS 12.19G will be completed. The IDP should be reviewed every quarter and updated annually. All supervision will be documented on the work supervision form Form 12.19K. And you want to be sure to have the most up-to-date version of these forms, as they do change from time to time. And the most up-to-date place to get this information is in Paycor. So I will quickly just remind you where to access these items in Paycor. Okay, so once you have logged into Paycor, you will come over to the right under your profile, click Summary. You will then find your summary over here on the left. You will click Assignment. You will then click Documents, which will bring you to this page, and you will find all of the policies, procedures, and forms listed under this tab that says Resources. So you may search for the item you're looking for, or you may find it easier to use the index to find the item that you're looking for. So please get the most up-to-date information straight from Paycor, as these items do change from time to time. Okay, moving on, you'll run staff caseload report and a clinical audit report in SmartCare at least one time per month, and review it in supervision to ensure documentation is in compliance and the frequency of visits is at a minimum of one time every 30 days. And I will also go over with you how to run those two reports and point out some items for you to take note of and where to find them on those particular reports. Okay, so once you have logged into SmartCare, you will go to your search feature or the magnifying glass. And the first one, what that was mentioned in that handout, was the caseload report. So if you just start searching case, the one that you want is caseload report, my office. You'll simply choose the staff that you would like to run this report on and click view report. What will open up for you is something that looks like this. You will see all the way on the left, client names, contact phone numbers. Then you'll start seeing information about their insurance. When was the last date that that caseload provider met with them? It will calculate the number of days that since it has been, that the client has been seen by that provider. If it has been entered, you'll see a next appointment with that caseload provider. Information about when was the most recent assessment completed on that client. Now, this is the diagnostic assessment, not the psych eval, so please keep that in mind. When was their most recent treatment plan completed? This is the clinical treatment plan. And then information about, is this a facility client? Is this a day and employment services client? Is this a residential client? And which program they're assigned to with it. So that is how to run and how to interpret the caseload report. The other item that was mentioned was looking at the clinical audit. So if you just start typing in clinical, can I spell it right? The one that you want is probably the clinical audit report by staff, although you may also search by program or by client. Let's just look at the one that is by staff for now. You'll just simply choose the staff name that you'd like to run this report on, click view report, and then what will populate, if you have run it by staff, is all of those clients assigned to that staff listed on the left, type of insurance, and then an overall score that that client received on this audit. And then the next couple columns are what is looked at in this audit. So if you click on the plus sign, it will expand the specific questions asked about that particular topic, such as intake, for example. So at intake, they're looking at, was the phone number entered for this client in SmartCare? Was the address entered? Did they capture an emergency contact in the chart for that client? Was ethnicity entered? Yes or no? Was the client's race entered? Yes or no? So you'll simply see yeses and nos. The nos will be in red. However, for some of the questions, they may not be applicable. And so you may see sometimes an NA, not apply to that particular client. So this is what you're looking for when you're running the clinical audit report, the different items that are looked at. So please be sure that you're familiar with what these topics are covering and what they're looking for within the chart. And please be sure that the individuals that you supervise also know how to run this report on themselves and can interpret what it means. Okay. So moving on, you want to maintain supervision notes and enter them into the supervisory file. within 5 days of supervision. So while we're talking about supervisor binders, if you're not familiar with what goes into a supervisor binder, or if you need a refresher, there is a separate training dedicated to what to put into the supervisor binder and how to create that. As far as meeting with your supervisee, ensure that supervision is focused on work per policy, covering things such as building rapport with your supervisee, following up on paperwork, set timeframes for items due, discuss client cases and interventions being used, review progress notes to look at their documentation skills, understanding diagnosis and symptoms, ways to improve client progress with mental health symptoms, assist your staff in learning and reinforcing good clinical practice and documentation skills, provide retraining when needed, and please review all items with an asterisk on the supervision form at least annually. So just real quick, this is the most recent version of the work supervision form. Please get it from Paycor though. This is the general work supervision form. Individual positions will have their own unique form, so please be sure you're using the correct one for your discipline. And the items marked with an asterisk are the ones that I was referencing that need to be covered per policy. Okay, moving on to success plans. Prior to requesting a coaching through HR for work rule violations or performance issues, supervisors will create a success plan along with their staff that may be having difficulties adhering to job expectations. And that success plan can be obtained through Paycor. A success plan will identify any area of need and should be a collaborative effort between staff and supervisor to plan the next steps to assist with achieving success, and are signed by both the staff and the supervisor, and then sent on to the next level supervisor. They should be stored in the staff's supervision file. Success plans can also be used with staff for positive planning or proactive planning, such as staff who may have upcoming planned PTO to ensure productivity requirements are met for the month, or for a staff who might be interested in moving into a supervisory role to identify steps they can take to prepare for future forward movement within the company. HR and coaching. Consult with your immediate supervisor and human resources before placing an employee on any level of the performance coaching process, including termination. When delivering a performance coaching document, the employee's direct supervisor will meet with the employee in person to discuss and review the area or areas where improvement is needed. Once the discussion has concluded, the employee and the supervisor will sign and date the performance coaching document. The employee's signature does not indicate agreement with the document, but rather signifies that the document was reviewed with the employee. The appeal process included in the HR coaching should be reviewed with the supervisee within delivery of the document. If appealed, this will go to the next level of supervisor. HR sends bi-monthly emails to the clinical director in regards to any compliance items coming due. Compliance can also be located in Paycor. And ensure that all staff are in compliance with HR trainings, both their initial and their annuals. Team meetings. At least one time a month, a group supervision or team meeting should be conducted. You'll use form BPBS 12.19M meeting minutes template to create the agenda and to send to the next level supervisor prior to the meeting. Document meeting minutes, also on form BPBS 12.19M, and save it in the shared drive so that those not in attendance could access it. Upload it into a OneDrive or a SharePoint folder within 5 days of the meeting. And a team building activity should be completed within the monthly meeting. Annual staff evaluations. You'll complete annual evaluations for your supervisees in compliance with HR policy, provide a comprehensive review of staff progress regarding their job description, adherence to ViaQuest core values, as well as areas for improvement. Once completed, the team lead will send it to the next level supervisor for feedback and approval. Must receive feedback and approval and signature of the next level supervisor before presenting it to the staff. Once completed and reviewed with staff and signed by all parties, this will be sent to your local HR department to store in the staff's individual HR file. If recommendations for an annual raise are approved by the next level supervisor, inform HR when you're sending the final copy of the evaluation. Paycor policies and trainings. Please review Paycor with all of your staff and show them how to download the app on their phone if they wish. Remind staff of where to locate pay stubs and any trainings needed. Ensure staff use Paycor to locate and find all ViaQuest policies and procedures. I just went over that with you. Please be sure all submitted paid time off requests are approved or denied in a timely manner. Speaking of PTO, all PTO requests should be submitted through Paycor and also logged in the SmartCare calendar. It is the immediate supervisor's responsibility to approve or deny PTO through Paycor in a timely fashion. Team leads should not approve PTO in which staff would have a negative balance. Confirm that PTO is logged on the SmartCare calendar. PTO will be approved or denied based on business needs, and maintain an attendance tracker for all tardy and PTO not approved in advance. Mileage and Certify. Make sure staff understand how to use Certify for logging and submitting mileage and expenses. Expense reports are required to be reviewed and approved by the 5th business day following month end, or within 24 hours of submission of the report, whichever is later. Any expense outside of mileage must have a receipt attached to the line item in the expense report, and prior approval for expense is needed from the clinical director. Mileage over $300 per month needs to be reviewed by the next level supervisor, and please assist staff with also downloading the Certify app on their phone if applicable. Okay, moving on to documentation compliance of staff as far as evaluations, both initial and annual. All clients receiving TBS services should have a psych eval or a diagnostic assessment at DA prior to providing any billable services. Please track that all clients are getting their yearly annual evaluations. Notify your clinical director, who will work with central scheduling for psychiatric evaluations in cases where they are past due after the last 12 months. For therapy evaluations, or DAs only, ensure that all new therapy clients have completed a DA and updated ITP or treatment plan prior to starting therapy services. Ensure that all therapy clients have an annual DA completed that justifies the continuation of therapy services. Moving on to the ITP or the treatment plan. Check for frequency of services for clients on the treatment plan. Most are receiving or recommended for weekly sessions. If a client has not received these services, review the case and non-billable documentation in SmartCare to ensure that staff has documented any attempts or barriers to the client receiving services. Clients who have not received services in 30 days should be reviewed for medical necessity or discharge them from the service unless it is clearly documented on the treatment plan. Clients who are receiving more services than the treatment plan designates, staff should review the treatment plan and update it, and those staff may need more supervision around those cases. Ensure all treatment plans are started at the beginning of the month. Give the staff a 1-week due date to send to their clinical reviewer. Work with your staff to time their due dates of the treatment plan so they are completed within 6 months. If they have a high volume due at the same time, the dates of the plans can be done sooner, but never later than the due date. Any overdue treatment plan is an immediate success plan and notification to your supervisor, as client services are not billable to insurance if there is an expired or overdue treatment plan. Coordinate with your clinical reviewer to ensure that your teams are meeting expectation of quality and timeliness of assessment, treatment plans, updates, discharge summaries. Ensure that all corrections are returned within 5 business days by your team. Support the clinical reviewer and staff by scheduling them into treatment plan review clinics or provide more support and training to help staff learn documentation skills. Okay, going on to the BIMS, or the brief interview for mental status. Clients who are scoring a BIM score between 0 and 6 or 99, meaning it wasn't able to be administered, may have barriers to memory and recall that prevent them from benefiting from TBS or therapy services. Work with your supervisor to ensure that clients continue to make progress, and this progress or lack of progress is well documented in progress notes and treatment plans. Safety plans. All IDD clients must have a safety plan completed in the electronic health record and is updated every 6 months. Reviews are needed any time in which suicidal or homicidal ideations are present. And let's just review really quick where you would locate and how you would enter a safety plan. Okay, so once you have logged into SmartCare and once you have opened your client chart who needs a safety plan, you would go over all the way to the left-hand side, hover over the client's chart. You would then hover over clinical documents. You're looking for safety plan, go ahead, click on safety plan. If there has never been one entered, you would just be taken right to the blank form to complete. If your client has had previous safety plans and you're entering an additional safety plan, you would click the new button and that would bring you to the blank form to enter the safety plan. Progress notes. Monitor staff completion of all billable and non-billable progress notes within 48 hours of delivery of the service. Develop success plans for those not meeting expectations on quality, timeliness, or completion of all notes as required by policy. Continue to teach, reinforce, and support staff in their use of TBS and therapy interventions, and providing quality documentation on what the provider did in session, why it related to the mental health condition recovery efforts, and how the client responded. I also would recommend, in addition to your own teaching efforts, that you also may want to recommend for certain employees that they attend TBS University. So please ask your supervisor about that if you need more information. Moving on to discharges. Check that staff have completed all required documents prior to discharging a client. Documents cannot be signed when the discharge summary is signed off by a clinical reviewer. Essentially, the case has been closed. Ensure that staff know and are coding the correct reason for discharge. Please use that cheat sheet, use those discharge instructions that you were provided with at SmartCare training on submitting the different types of discharges. An agency discharge would be when a client dies, moves from the facility, or stops all ViaQuest BPBS services. A program discharge, on the other hand, is when a client completes or requests a discharge of services but remains open in other PBS services. Do not select an administrative close, as this is when the agency is closing services to a client and can only be used with the approval of the regional clinical director, state clinical director, or the executive director. Moving on to incident reporting. Please ensure all staff, as well as yourself, have viewed the incident reporting training. Provide continued reminders to staff regarding following reporting policy and procedure, of contacting the incident hotline for any possible reportable incidents, and to follow through with the directives given by independently licensed staff who may be answering the call. So I would just like to remind you that we provide all new hires with these "What Should I Report" cards. That is a nice synopsis of what to report, what types of incidences are considered reportable, as well as the time frames for reporting those incidences, who to report it to, as well as the incident hotline number. If you yourself do not have this number in your phone, please pause the video right now and enter it. It's 844-487-1265. If you need more of these cards for yourself or for your team, please reach out to your supervisor, or the trainer in your region could also provide you with more of these cards for yourself or for your team. Okay, so continuing on with incident reporting. When another ViaQuest business line is involved, remind staff to first contact the VDES or VRS leadership team in regard to the incident to determine responsibility of reporting the incident if it is a major unusual incident or an MUI. If VDES or VRS are not in agreement with reporting, contact the executive director of VPBS and IDD so that communication with the VP of business lines can occur. Complete a witness statement as instructed. Send it to your supervisor, the QA director, and the supervisor on call. Ensure staff are creating or reviewing safety plans for clients upon incident, and notate review of safety plan in the progress note. Incident reports do not go into the client record. Copies of the report and witness statements are kept by the QA department. Okay, moving on to hiring and onboarding. We'll work with hiring managers to assist with onboarding of TBS new hires. VPBS hiring managers will take the lead on interviewing, hiring, and onboarding. Upon completion of a staff's new hire orientation, ensure that the new hire checklist has been turned in to HR, completed within 30 days of the hire date, and then please place a copy of this in the supervision file and provide a copy to the next level supervisor. You can find that checklist on Paycor. For offboarding, when an employee submits their resignation, please inform your supervisor and HR the same day. Prior to the last day of work, the supervisor should review the employee's work, documentation, plan for documentation to be completed, and a transition of clients should be discussed. This includes establishing that the staff supervisor will contact their clients and discuss options for care. Ensure all documentation is completed or errored out. Reassign cases to others or to yourself to continue services or discharge them accordingly. Individuals that have been receiving services may not be placed back on the wait list. For those clients that cannot be reached, all attempts should be documented in a non-billable note in SmartCare. Complete offboarding through the IT portal when one of your staff leave the company. This needs to be completed as soon as possible, within 24 hours of their final day of work. And I did just want to point out something on the IT service portal. So normally when you would do a usual IT ticket, you would come here to the Get Help area. However, if it is regarding onboarding, offboarding, transferring items such as that, you would come over here to Request. So there is a difference between a request and the normal IT ticket area. And then lastly, you will collect all ViaQuest equipment on the offboarding process. Okay, moving on to the ViaQuest Culture Playbook, ViaQuest Voice, and employee recognition. It's recommended that team leads should be sending at least one e-card per month. And here we are talking about CA Short, and I will demonstrate that here for you. So the actual website for CA Short is peopleareeverything.com, and the e-cards that we're talking about can be accessed by clicking on Send e-card. You can send e-cards for birthdays, anniversaries. You can also send one based on our values, so the letter CHOICE, and then at your discretion, you may attach points to it. Employees earn points over the months and years, and those can be used to purchase things from this catalog that is also on the People Are Everything website. So please look into that to positively reinforce your employees. The last point here under employee recognition is to ensure staff are knowledgeable of ViaQuest's mission, vision, and values. I just mentioned the choice ones, and follow the playbook and review it with the team once a quarter. So here we're talking about the ViaQuest Culture Playbook, and I will show you how to access that also on Paycor. Okay, so once you have logged into Paycor from the home screen, there is a link right to the ViaQuest Culture Playbook. If you click on the link, a full version will be brought up for you to review so that you become familiar with our choice values: customer service, humor, ownership, integrity, creativity, and excellence. And then lastly, under success stories, be sure to gather success stories from staff to send to the designated clinical manager for them to input into success story spreadsheet at least one time a month. So that completes this job reminders and job related reminders for IDD team leads handout. I hope it was helpful to you. If you have any further questions, please ask your supervisor, and you may also want to review this training more than once. So I hope it was helpful to you, and I appreciate your attention.